This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
They're trying to put a fear into the community that we've rolled back the code. And in truth, the code hasn't been rolled back.
Building codes in Florida, for decades they have remained the same, but some want to loosen them. Why now, especially after Irma? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on hurricane building codes in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. 2 Palmetto police officers are on administrative leave tonight after a shooting in a cemetery leaves a man dead. The 2 officers shot and killed 32-year-old Anthony Robinson in the Old Memphis Cemetery. Police say Robinson was firing shots into his father's home around 1:30 this morning. Bullet holes were found near where a child was sleeping. Officers spotted Robinson in a vehicle leaving the area and attempted to stop him. Chief Scott Tyler says he believes Robinson shot at Officer Angel Arachima and Madison Peters. The investigation is in the hands of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
I am thankful that my officers are okay, and I'm heartbroken for the family of this individual that they've lost him. You know, police work sometimes is violent. I just hope that the community is patient and allows the impartial investigation to take place before we jump to conclusions. It's easy to say that the police overreacted, but we're also dealing with a very violent crime that had just occurred, and this is the individual that perpetrated it.
Chief Tyler says Robinson had a criminal record but would not release the details. Now to the latest on a landscape worker killed by a live power line while working on Siesta Key. It happened around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon on Freeling Drive near the Siesta Key North Bridge. Sarasota County Emergency Services reports the man died at the scene.
It was like a scissor lift, so they were elevated off the ground. But as far as what they were actually doing, we don't know prior to our arrival.
The man worked for a private company and his name has not been released. The trial is now underway for a former Sarasota County Sheriff's deputy charged with attempted murder. Jury selection started this morning in the case against Frank Bobby. He faces 20 felony charges for allegedly befriending an elderly woman, then stealing her money and trying to kill her. Bobby's defense claims the woman has a history of mental health issues, including emails where she threatened to kill herself. Bobby has pleaded not guilty. Jury selection is expected to last a couple of days. Millions of people are still without power in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria pummeled the island last week, and Suncoast residents with loved ones there are having a tough time reaching their relatives. Many Floridians are awaiting a call from their loved ones in Puerto Rico, wanting to know if they survived the Category 4 storm. As of Sunday, 96% of cell phone towers were still not working.
I know many people that is living in the States are worried about not hearing from their families, and the reason for that is that communication towers are down.
AT&T is trying to help people get in touch with their relatives. Enter the cell phone number at the AT&T customer service you are trying to contact, then enter your number. When that person is able to contact a wireless network, AT&T will let them know someone is trying to contact them from your phone. More than 1 million Florida homeowners and renters registered for federal assistance following Hurricane Irma. The Florida Division of Emergency Management says the daily number of applicants is steadily increasing. At least 9 counties each had more than 50,000 people register for individual assistance. A FEMA spokesman says everyone who feels that they may be entitled to assistance should apply.
You may be able to get assistance from FEMA whether you have insurance or not. Every household is handled on a case-by-case basis because everyone's exact situation is unique. So registering with FEMA will get you into that process.
The easiest way to register for FEMA assistance is by visiting the website www.disasterassistance.gov or using the FEMA app on a smartphone. Flood insurance claims are also coming in from around the state. Nearly 17,000 filed already and more are expected. The Sun Sentinel reports of the 16,000 flood claims filed through Thursday, nearly 4,000 were in Monroe County, which is the Florida Keys. Here on the Suncoast, 295 claims have been filed in Manatee and Sarasota counties. Bob, we are still experiencing all the results from Hurricane Irma.
Yeah, it's still happening. The cleanup hasn't really been expedited either. There's still a lot of debris out there, obviously, on some of the roadways. We saw problems with that on Friday when we had the heavy rainfall and some of that debris washing down into some of the drains there, causing some problems with flooding. So the good news is we don't have a lot of rainfall going on right now, and the rain is mainly east of I-75. Pushing to the southeast, away from the coast. So we're not anticipating anything too significant overnight. We'll see maybe 1 or 2 lone showers popping up on the land breeze if it does develop, and that sometimes does fire off a few isolated cells in the Gulf of Mexico. But the radar picture is showing that activity. Some lightning strikes occurring southeast of Arcadia. Arcadia just had some rainfall, and now it's starting to slip away to the southeast there. The flood warning is still up for the Peace River at Arcadia. The flood stage at 11 feet. Currently it's at 12.8 feet. Expected to go below flood stage by Friday afternoon. And currently the nice weather out there, 80 degrees right now. It's 76 on the dew point. Not bad. Winds are out of the west at 9. The pressure 2985. That's fairly low. And you can see, Maria, a poorly organized system right now. It's kind of void of any significant rainfall earlier. Now we're seeing an explosion around the center on the southeast side. But still, it's not that well organized, and in fact, it's just hanging on right now to Category 1 status. It's going to be moving off to the north. It's not going to make landfall in the United States, but it will cause some tropical storm force winds. The Outer Banks of North Carolina, it will be below hurricane status as early as Wednesday afternoon. And we have Lee out there, but it's way out in the Atlantic, not doing any harm to any land at this point.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. And still to come, Florida is considering loosening its building codes, but what does that mean if another hurricane comes through the state? When we come back.
A decade of war has taken an unprecedented toll on our men and women in uniform.
Hundreds of thousands of our veterans are suffering from the trauma of war.
At Justice for Vets, we believe that every veteran should have the opportunity for treatment and restoration.
Get involved and go to justiceforvets.org.
Help put treatment within reach of veterans in crisis.
Veterans fought for our freedom. Now it's our turn to fight for theirs.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
You studied hard, went to college, and achieved your dream, but it turned into a financial nightmare. If you have federal student loans and you'd like to reduce your payments, get more time, or have your loans completely eliminated, then we have good news. With one call to Student Loan Relief Services, you can find support and guidance. We've already helped thousands of people, and we can help you too. If you have $10,000 or more in federal student loans, you can qualify for payment extensions, payment reductions, or you may qualify to have your federal student loan completely forgiven. Call Student Loan Relief Services now to find out about your options. Take control of your finances and get out from under this burden. One of our student loan experts has the answers to your questions and great solutions to ease your financial burden. We're here for you. Call Student Loan Relief Services now.
Call 800-759-0203, 800-759-0203.
Check out mysuncoast.com/dining, your guide to the foodie lifestyle.
Many of us are still shaking off and cleaning up after Irma, but did you know there was an effort in the state legislature this year to relax hurricane building standards? Jacqueline Matter has the story.
Before Hurricane Irma rolled into South Florida earlier this month, there was Hurricane Charlie and, of course, Hurricane Andrew. Those intense hurricanes devastated the lives of millions 25 years ago and led to sweeping changes when it came to how Floridians protected themselves and their homes.
Floridians were shocked by the devastation left behind from Andrew, which prompted the state's building codes be rewritten, making them the toughest in the nation.
Florida, which has become the gold standard of building codes since Hurricane Andrew, that we keep that code. That's the base code, and we will adopt new product as it comes through the building code.
As memories of Andrew fade, so do the lessons learned, and the code once hailed as the golden standard is now under attack.
My concern is that any attempt to weaken our code not only could possibly create long-term economic disadvantages, it could create long-term life safety advantages.
CEO of the Manatee Sarasota Building Industry Association says at the center of that dispute is a simple mathematical fact. The tougher the building code, the more it costs to build a home.
As a building industry, we want our clients to have the most efficient homes that they can, and we want them to have the safest, newest homes that they can.
Meanwhile, insurers like Don Brown say those tough codes save residents money in the long run.
There are those who want the lowest possible unit cost on new construction. They want to be able to sell their product at the lowest possible cost in the present. And then there are those who have more long-term concerns, and that is what's in the consumer's long-term best interest with regard to not only the economics of the question, but life safety issues.
Florida's code highlights construction methods that require wind testing and extensive training for inspectors. Home builders argue that can add up to unnecessary costs that regardless won't amount to a hurricane-proof home.
We don't really need that in the building code. What we need is hurricane standards, water intrusion, and the compliance with FEMA, which the code still retains.
But Brown says Floridians need to weigh their options.
My perspective is consumers can be harmed in the long term while getting a short-term benefit of a lower price. And it's just a matter of weighing those two perspectives out and see what's in the long-term best interest of Florida consumers.
Just this year, Governor Rick Scott signed a new law into effect that allows Florida to create its own standards, leaving a system that's been in place for decades, known as the International Code Council. John Mast supports that new Florida code and spoke on behalf of home builders on the Suncoast in Tallahassee. He says the new bill doesn't change a single building code, but instead modernizes the way the code applies to the Sunshine State.
If we went around and talked to our legislators, asking and pushing to have control of our building code so that we don't have to take in everybody else's designs for what they think should be used in Texas versus what should be used in Maryland or used in Florida. Florida is a very specific place and doesn't need to have those types of codes in our building code.
There's no reason, he says, to think that developers want to weaken the code by adopting the new standards, and says opposers are simply trying to scare Floridians.
They're trying to put a fear into the community that we've rolled back the code, and in truth, the code hasn't been rolled back.
The new system freezes Florida's current code and then allows the Florida Building Commission to pick and choose which parts of the ICC code to adopt, which puts Brown on edge.
That was one of the concerns that I had as a member of the Florida Building Commission, that it would make it easier for the Florida code to get, for the lack of a better term, watered down.
Following Charlie, builders say they feel like they were over-designing, which led to tweaks to the code in the first major change in 2015, when the Insurance Institute, that previously praised Florida for its gold standard, downgraded the state's code from the top spot to second place. With big storms like Harvey and Irma, many wonder if the decision by the state comes at an unforeseen time. For Mast, he says builders like himself will learn from this year's hurricane season.
The code is intact, and we will do a deep dive into the existing code after the storm has settled, and we figure out how construction has withstood Irma. We're not rolling anything back. We've not made anything weaker. In fact, Florida is stronger, I think, now than ever.
And for Brown, he remains hopeful his concerns toward the future will be minimal.
We need to have the strongest code possible to save lives and to allow people to have the biggest advantage they can against these monster storms.
It remains to be seen if any rollbacks will take place, as the Florida base code will not go into effect until next year, and any changes would be made from there. In Sarasota, Jacqueline Matter, ABC7, your Suncoast News.
The arguments for and against Florida's hurricane standards when we blow on over to the trapezoid.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
If you're only hungry for a slice of apple pie, why buy the whole pie? And you certainly wouldn't want to pay for an all-you-can-eat buffet. So if you don't use your cell phone that much, why get charged for a plan that's too big or even an unlimited plan? Luckily, there's still a wireless company that shares your values. Welcome to Consumer Cellular. Our average customer pays about $25 a month for everything they need. Many pay even less, as plans start at just $10 a month. You'll get a straightforward bill that's easy to understand, with no surprises, and all the attention you deserve from our friendly customer service team. No wonder Consumer Cellular has received J.D. Power Awards for highest customer service. Plus, if you're an AARP member, you'll receive special discounts. It's easy to switch. You can even keep your phone and your number. So stop paying for more than you need and start your 30-day risk-free trial today. Call 1-800-468-1930. Go online or visit a Target store today.
Attention type 2 diabetics. The FDA warns of an increased risk of amputation associated with certain diabetes medications. If you took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation or one of these other serious injuries, call the Rely On Group right now. If you've suffered amputation or any of these injuries after taking your diabetes medication, call the Rely On Group today. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA has recently warned about an increased risk of leg and foot amputations associated with the use of certain diabetic medications such as Invokana and Invokamet. If you or a loved one took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation, ketoacidosis, kidney failure, or even death, call the Rely On Group now. We are here to help you get the justice you deserve. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-355-8205. That's 800-355-8205.
Welcome back. A pat on the back. Florida. Irma proved that we learned our lesson from Hurricane Andrew. Yes, many of us were without power for days. There was flooding. But for the most part, the building codes put into place after Andrew devastated South Florida worked. But now an effort is underway to allow builders to pick and choose which standards adopted by the builders nationally to follow. What does that mean? And joining us for more is John Mass, CEO of Manatee Sarasota Building Industry Association, and Steve Panzarino of the Florida chapter of the American Institute of Architects. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So here we have a situation that in the last legislative session, the legislature adopted allowing builders to pick and choose what standards from the International Code Council, which is a national organization, to use in Florida. John, you made that the case for that in Jacqueline's story. Steve, what about it? Because it seems that the knock against the national codes is we don't have snow in Florida. We don't have things that other states may necessarily need. So what's the problem with not applying that to the Florida building codes?
Well, to start, thank you for having us on the show. And the AIA of Florida and the Caribbean region fully support any recovery efforts, and we would like to help however possible. The International Code Council and what's known as the I-codes are a fully integrated and developed code system that is based on building science. And yes, there are opportunities where snow and other, environmental factors don't play into the state of Florida, but places like Texas and other Gulf Coast regions where there are building science data that we can collect from these storms helps us make better informed codes.
John, what you hear from people when they hear that builders may be, not applying the same codes that we've had since Andrew, is that, you know what, it's to save a buck. And we've done so well in the storms since in terms of how houses and other buildings have done. Why mess with something that's been working?
Okay, so my first reaction is, am I being punked? Because nothing has changed in the Florida Building Code. Nothing has changed. All of the hurricane standards are still there. All of the water intrusion standards are still there. The requirement to manage and to be up to date with FEMA is still there. Nothing has changed. Builders won't be able to pick and choose from the code book. That's ludicrous. The Florida Building Commission that Don Brown so eloquently talked about, his insurance side of that, he will be the one picking and choosing. In fact, last building code, 2014, 600 amendments were made to the ICC code because they were non-consequential to the Florida market.
But we were listening to Steve. He said that some of the standards in terms of even involving roofing, that standards that deal with snow, it's all interrelated. Is that basically what you've been saying?
Yes. I mean, the building of a structure and the codes enforce the safety of that structure. And they are all integrated, and the science back behind those codes are there for a specific reason.
Agreed. However, nothing with the roofing is changing. So you have issues with the ICC that came in and added a zero lot line recommendation, which has nothing to do with the building code, but they added a zero lot line recommendation to mandate that single-family homes have to have fire sprinklers. Florida statute eliminates the need for fire sprinklers in homes unless they're 3 stories or multiple dwelling units. So those are the kind of things that we fight to get rid of every time ICC develops a new code. They hide things in the code that make it unmanageable for Florida construction.
We are just getting warmed up, as you see, and we'll have much more on hurricane building standards right after we check the first alert weather. Stay with us.
It's Willamania at the Players Center as the Will Rogers Follies takes the stage September 27th. Part homespun humor and part Ziegfeld Follies, this toe-tapping Tony Award musical is the start of our wild Broadway series. So call the Players at 365-2494 or visit us at theplayers.org. You need to catch Willamania.
40 million. That's the number of free phones still available and the number of how many Americans can still get prescriptions free.
Free could be wonderful.
That's why I'm still working at 77 years old to pay off my prescriptions.
I needed to have a prescription filled and I had to leave because I couldn't afford it.
Call now and see what's available for you. Free prescriptions. Over 10 million people get prescriptions free, and the program has expanded so another 40 million can. Free dental. Over 15,000 dentists have provided over $330 million in free dental work. Free cell phones. 40 million free cell phones are still available with free minutes and more.
Free cell phone would change my life right now because it is something I cannot afford to get.
Medical supplies like back braces, knee braces, and diabetic supplies may be covered too. The free RX Plus hotline has saved callers over $12 million on their prescription costs. These free programs are now available to 40 million more people. Call now.
Attention! If you had surgery to repair a hernia, listen closely. Ethicon has recalled its PhysioMesh flexible composite mesh after 2 studies showed higher rates of hernias reopening and additional surgeries compared to other meshes. This product may cause severe health problems, including pain, swelling, bowel obstructions, infections, mesh failure, hernia recurrence, and other health issues. If you or a loved one had hernia repair surgery in 2006 or later and suffered complications that required additional surgery, you may be entitled to compensation. Even if you're unsure if PhysioMesh or another brand was used in your surgery, you may still be eligible for compensation.
Call Sokolov Law now at 1-800-273-7215 for a free legal consultation. That's 1-800-273-7215. Again, that's 1-800-273-7215. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Our conversation on hurricane building standards continues right after we get a check on the first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, in a few minutes from now, you'll be able to spot the International Space Station. Look to the southwest. Skies are generally fair here. And look to the northeast. It will fly across to the northeast at duration 6 minutes, so fairly long. And you'll see it go on by, and it looks like we'll have a pretty good sky for that, at least along the coast. Inland areas still have some clouds around as a result of some rainfall. But here's the Van Wezel webcam looking out over Sarasota Bay throughout the day today. Nice day. You can see some high, thin cirrus clouds coming in overhead, but nothing significant that should not block the entire view out. So we'll be able to see a little bit of that. If you've got time, go out there and check that out. Now, as far as the rain goes, there are a few showers. I mentioned inland, the activity pushing off toward the east, southeast, and there has been some lightning strikes with these cells just southeast of Arcadia now and entering the southern portions of Highlands County. You can see it's traveling to the southeast. So again, there's not much along the coastline. A little bit of drier air has settled in. On top of that, more of a westerly push for the surface anyway, and that is allowing inland storms to develop, but nothing along the coastline. We may see a little land breeze develop overnight, which could cause a few isolated showers pop up in the Gulf of Mexico, but those would not be too strong due to the dry air. Right now at the airport, clear skies and the temperature at 80 degrees. Pretty nice evening. West winds are at 9, the pressure 29.85 inches. A high today, because of that westerly wind, 84 degrees, and the low this morning was at 72. The record high 95, set back in 1995, and rainfall amounts exceeding the average, much, in fact, well above average, 5 inches, over 5 inches for the month, and over 16 inches for the year thus far. Hourly forecast looks to be pretty good tomorrow. It should be relatively dry. If we see anything pop up, it'll be similar to what we had today. Inland showers pushing off basically to the east. Now, as far as Maria is concerned, it's got some dry air wrapped in it. On top of that, it's not that well organized. Still a hurricane. And then we have Hurricane Lee out there, too, in the Atlantic at this point, getting rid of some excessive energy out there in the tropics and in the Atlantic. Watching a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity here. We'll keep an eye on it for you. Nothing organized at this point in the Western Caribbean. But here's what Lee is going to be doing. It's going to head off to the west and then eventually off to the northeast and only having an impact on shipping interests. That'll be it as it makes its way in that general direction. Now, as far as Maria is concerned, it's creating some tropical storm force winds on the outer banks of North Carolina where there are tropical storm force warnings now for that area. And on top of that, some very heavy surf occurring along the eastern seaboard there from Florida all the way up into the Carolinas. Into the 50s now over the northern Rockies and northern Plain states. Much warmer, though. Chicago at this hour warmer than it is here in Sarasota. St. Louis at 90. For beach and boating tomorrow looks good. West winds will be at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be running 2 feet or less. And the UV index high tomorrow at a 10. Tides upcoming 10:27. And sunset, we just had it. And sunrise will be at 7:21. The forecast tonight, mostly fair and mild. Showers winding down inland counties here in the next hour or so. And then tomorrow, the rain chance at 20% for a few mainly afternoon showers. High of 89. That rain chance will be increasing. You guessed it, just in time for football Friday night. The rain chance bouncing back up to 40%. High temperatures staying warm in the low 90s. Alan will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-307-2040 now and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-307-2040 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-307-2040.
Welcome back. Irma showed Florida's improved hurricane building standards work, so is it time to revisit them? Joining us for more is John Mass, CEO of Manatee Sarasota Building Industry Association, and Steve Panzarino of the Florida chapter of the American Institute of Architects. So I'm a little confused. I'm sure our viewers are too. In terms of what the legislature passed this year, Steve, in your opinion, does it weaken the building standards in Florida?
Does it weaken? It provides the potential to weaken the codes.
How?
In that the codes are now frozen, and it's going to be a more localized opportunity to manage those codes and update those codes.
Describe that opportunity, because John said, look, nothing is changing with the roofing codes or the other codes that have made, Florida's homes so much more safer now than it was in the days of Hurricane Andrew.
Well, first, the building codes extend far beyond just residential construction. The building codes encompass all building types, so including schools, hospitals, any public building. So buildings that are being used as shelters need to be hardened, and the codes provide that opportunity to make the buildings robust. And with the new legislation, the opportunity for special interests to come in and to start saying, okay, we want to make sure our interests are met, and forgetting other parts of the code or ignoring those parts of the code and them getting left behind.
John?
Well, I don't see that happening. In fact, Florida Home Builders Association will be working with Richard Corcoran on
Speaker of the House.
Yes, Speaker of the House, on his select committee that he's put together to do a deep dive into what has happened with Irma and the damage that has been sustained. So the big thing about being a home builder is you want to sell homes, right? So what better opportunity than to sell someone a new home that is designed to the hurricane standard, the best hurricane standard in the country, what we believe it is, but the Florida Building Code is the gold standard. What better way to sell a new home, right? You said yourself that you moved up from Miami-Dade, and the house that you have here have impact-resistant windows. The house is designed to mitigate hurricane winds and water intrusion. It's in compliance with FEMA. We don't want to change any of that. In fact, when those types of changes need to occur, and it might have to occur after Irma, depending on the wind zone and the lines that go across the state of Florida, which are designed into the building code, we will have to deal with that, and we'll want to make that
All right, so
the case.
let's take this one step at a time, because Steve said that what the legislation does now is that it freezes the codes where they are now. And are you saying it makes it more difficult to improve codes if the investigation into Irma finds that there are things that actually need to be improved upon?
Well, as I mentioned, the I codes that form the Florida Building Code are a fully integrated series of codes. And we want to make sure that that data is incorporated over the entire code.
Right. So, John, respond to that in terms of what is inherently wrong by just taking again, it's called the International Codes Council. It's a national organization. Why not just continue using those codes and make them real for Florida?
Because every time the new code is adopted, we make changes to that code. 600 changes to the existing building code were created because of the ICC through their people, that special interest groups that come into the Building Code Congress, or right? They're the ones who make those changes to the code, whether it be green building, which we're doing green building. We have a green building member on the Florida Building Commission. We have builders on the Florida Building Commission. We have insurance agents. We have bankers. We have those people that are on there. It is a great system. Now, that was developed after Hurricane Andrew. The first code that came out after Hurricane Andrew was the STD 1097. It was a code that anyone could use to design a home to that current hurricane standard. And in 2002, we adopted the first hurricane code, right? So, and that's the first time that a home was designed, needed to be designed, and commercial buildings, for pressures, internal pressures, which is what blows buildings apart. So that's what was adopted in 2002. Go to 2006, impact-resistant doors and windows were mandated, or shutters were mandated. So the code has been robust and continues to be robust. But the problem is that the Florida Building Code, the ICC code that was adopted, has to be changed. It's the only outside source that comes into the state of Florida and tells Florida what to do. So if you talk about home rule, well, you'll hear that from our local communities. We want to have control of our code. So hairdressers, doctors, all those other trades are not mandated by an outside source that come into the state of Florida.
Steve, is your concern theoretical in terms of that Florida building codes could be loosened in the future, but we have, I mean, what evidence do you have that this is something that you really are concerned that could happen?
Well, the International Code Council is made up of hundreds of members, all specializing in building sciences. And they have a more comprehensive look at refining codes. Things that are occurring in Texas are going to influence what happens in Florida. Things that happen in California have influence on what happens in Florida. It's not that we're being mandated what to do. It is using the best practices and the best building sciences to refine the code and create a code that is going to make the gold standard and continue to drive that gold standard.
I guess, John, again, what is your concern about that? If you, in Jacqueline's story a few minutes ago, there were some changes that were made a couple of years ago, which, as our report said, we were #1 in the country in terms of building standards, and we were lowered to #2. I guess that would be what the concern would be.
Well, that is the code that was adopted previous to this discussion. Okay, so that's the 2014 building code. That was the ICC product. So I don't know that that we're now rated #2 in the country. If that's the case, that's the ICC's fault. That's not our fault, because this is 2016, 2017 legislative session that created the 1021. So you can't go back and pick and choose part of the story. So it didn't happen because of legislature that happened this year, because nothing has changed. The code will not change till 2021 to be the first time it will be revisited.
The code is going to be revisited in 3 years. And so that's when we're going to learn whether the new code is superior or not.
Yeah, and as far if it's wind related, yes, we'll comply by that. But when you require someone to have a self-closing hinge on a interior garage door as a part of the code, or if you require a recessed slab in a residence to have a membrane installed, or you can't pass code, those are items that came from another state, another jurisdiction, that they just thought it was a great idea to add this tiny piece of code in.
Yeah,
that's what we're concerned about with the ICC.
I don't think anybody on the Code Council, they don't make arbitrary decisions. Those decisions are grounded, and they make it into the code because they have a specific benefit to the health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Yes, I would say that. Now, is the Florida Accessibility Code being gotten away with? No. Is the American Accessibility Code being gone away with? Health, safety? No. It's not.
All right.
Nothing that is changing.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back with final thoughts when we return.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or been diagnosed with another asbestos-related cancer, call now. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. you may be able to receive compensation without ever going to court or filing a lawsuit. Thousands of hardworking men and women have been diagnosed with mesothelioma because manufacturers put profits ahead of safety. Manufacturers knew the risks of asbestos exposure for years, but knowingly manufactured and sold deadly asbestos-containing materials, putting millions of American workers at risk. These manufacturers have tried to avoid compensating their victims, but the courts have ordered them to set aside an estimated $30 billion in trust money for the victims of asbestos. Call now to see if you're entitled to a portion of the $30 billion. You could receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or going to court.
Call 1-800-990-7362 now for a free legal consultation. Again, that's 1-800-990-7362. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
Call to see if you qualify to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan right now. At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and coinsurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans. And prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book and DVD. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. Call 1-800-558-8779.
Keep up with the Suncoast. Watch your favorite ABC7 shows on your streaming device.
Our guests join us right now for final thoughts. And Steve, I'll begin with you in terms of wrapping up this conversation, in terms of the legislation that was adopted this year by the Florida legislature. What is your concern as we go forward here in terms of what might happen to the building standards for Florida homes and commercial building?
Well, storms are going to continue. And with more and more people moving to the state of Florida, we just witnessed it's becoming more difficult to evacuate. Therefore, people are going to have to stay in place during these storms, and therefore they're going to need robust buildings to protect them during those events. And we want to make sure that the code is the most current, encompasses the most technology, the most data that we can use to make sure that that code is
Do you think that job
robust.
becomes more difficult after the law that was signed into effect this year?
I do.
John, you don't agree?
No, I don't. And as we've said on break, architects and builders, we get along. We work together. We're all members of the ICC, actually. So as an affiliate or a member of the ICC, the National Association of Home Builders and American Institute of Architects are part of the ICC. However, in the state of Florida, we believe that we have the gold standard now. We will continue to look to upgrade the code. We have members on the Florida Building Commission, and we have non-members that are of the Florida Home Builders Association, which is a broad federation that Manatee Sarasota building industry is a part of. We have worked to make this an excellent code, and it will continue to be an excellent code. The public does not need to worry that their new homes will be less have less structural integrity based on hurricanes or wind intrusion for rain that's going to come through your walls that we discovered during Hurricane Andrew. And FEMA regulations will have to be maintained.
Steve, quickly, do you have that confidence?
Yes. I think as a collective industry, we are working very hard to make sure that the codes are the gold standard and that everyone is protected.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank both our guests for being here tonight. John Mast is the CEO of the Manatee Sarasota Building Industry Association, and Steve Panzarino is with the Florida chapter of the American Institute of Architects. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus President Trump's comments about NFL players who kneel during the national anthem and the response of the teams when we come back.
Attention type 2 diabetics. The FDA warns of an increased risk of amputation associated with certain diabetes medications. If you took the diabetes medications Invokana or Invokamet and then suffered an amputation or one of these other serious injuries, call the Rely On group right now. If you've suffered amputation or any of these other injuries after taking your diabetes medication, call the Rely On group today. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-604-1698. That's 800-604-1698.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
Growing up, my mom was afraid of the water, something she did not want me to feel.
So I enrolled Missy in swim lessons.
It changed my life.
Missy Franklin.
And now you can do the same for someone that you love.
There's nothing more precious than your child's well-being.
So act now, before it's too late.
Make us swim! I'm glad I did.
Thanks, Mom. Visit usaswimmingfoundation.org to find, get, or give a swim lesson.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He went through seizures.
We'd much rather have Aaron like this than dead. A lot of parents don't have that luxury.
He can't talk. He can't walk. This is a condition Aaron will live with for the rest of his life because he abused prescription pills.
Mind your meds. Learn more from the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment, but right now let's get the final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Well, Van Wezel webcam showing some high, thin cirrus clouds coming in from the Gulf of Mexico along the coast. No rainfall around. We had a few brief showers into inland portions of our Sarasota and Manatee counties, but now it's shifted off into DeSoto and Highlands County. But nice sunset tonight, and it looks like high surf along the east coast. Also some rip currents, a big concern from West Palm Beach northward as a result of Maria creating those waves. You can see those showers now mainly moving out of our viewing area as they head to the southeast. Not much going on near the coast and should stay that way as a result of some dry air. We have a west wind too, a steady west wind, so there's no real convergence set up. And it's going to be the case again tomorrow. A slight chance for mainly inland showers, not a lot going on near the coast. Currently, it's clear. It's 80. West winds are at 9. The pressure 2985 inches, and that's fairly low, but we are expecting a nice day tomorrow. Despite that pressure, we'll see sunshine, and it looks like not a real threat of anything significant rainfall. We'll see 1 or 2 lone showers, but we're watching this moisture down to our south right now. That's going to be increasing through the latter half of the work week, and better chances for rain come on Thursday and especially into Friday. Well, there's Lee. Lee's still hanging around as a Category 1 hurricane, but expected to race off into the open waters of the Atlantic. Could have an impact on England down the road, along with the remnants of Maria. Maria is still a very large system, but the hurricane center is not all that well organized at this point. You see some deep convection developing to the right of the center, but most of it, again, is not that well organized. Some of the tropical storm force winds being felt along the Carolina coast. Get a look at this. This is the water temperatures, and what happens with these hurricanes is they displace the heat. They take the heat and they kind of work it up north and kind of disperse it somewhat. You can see the path of all those hurricanes, and Maria has just been hanging around, just causing a cool down across much of its path. And you can see temperatures in the mid-70s now, water temperatures in the low 80s. That's just marginal for hurricane development. But get a look at this in the Western Caribbean, which is the area that starts to have more activity in the latter half of the season, is still very warm. In the upper 80s there, 89-degree temperatures across most of the Western Caribbean, upper 80s there. Even where Irma went through, it's back to 89. Well, temperature 68 in Portland, 70 in Boston, 81 in Ottawa. Buffalo, warm 83, cooler fall-like readings in places like Montana and also into North Dakota. 91 hot in Dallas right now, and 84 in Houston, 82 in Atlanta, and 82 in Birmingham. So we're looking for temperatures to be somewhat above average, it looks like, as we push them through much of this week, but it shouldn't be all that hot. For boaters tomorrow, and beachgoers alike, we're looking for seas running less than 2 feet, really. West winds at 5 to 10 knots. And there'll be a light chop in the bays and inland waters, water temperature at 86 degrees. Beaches will see a high right around 88. The UV index, load up on that sunscreen, a 10 tomorrow if you get the opportunity to hit the beaches. And as far as the tides go upcoming for Sarasota Bay, low tide will be at 10:27. Another one at 12:19 tomorrow afternoon. And sunrise at 7:21. We almost have equal day and equal night going on. That'll happen just in a couple days. Mostly fair and mild, 76 for a low. And west winds at 5 to 10. Tomorrow, rain chance is only at 20%. If we see anything at all, it'll be mainly inland and a high near 89 degrees. West winds at 5 to 10. The extended forecast is calling for better chances for showers and storms as we push toward the latter half of the work week. And it'll stay at 40% for mainly late day storms through the weekend, with high temperatures running just a few degrees above average. Al will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to? Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
Once you get atrial fibrillation, you need to have a very close relationship with your primary doctor. Prevention is the whole ball game here, because once you have a stroke, you can't undo it. A year without stroke is a year that you can enjoy doing the things that you've worked all your life to finally get to do. You took care of yourself. You did what is necessary for you to be around one more year. And then next year, we'll celebrate one more year without a stroke.
Just go do it. Go do it. If you're not in control, then who is? Live above the influence.
Checking primetime headlines, the sports world is continuing to fire back at President Trump's remarks. NFL players should be fired for kneeling during the national anthem. On Sunday, more than 200 players, coaches, and owners came together, some locking arms and others kneeling as the anthem played at different NFL games. ABC's Janae Norman has more from Washington.
We have to figure out a way how we come together and be
King James denouncing President Trump.
because the people run this country, not one individual. And damn sure not him.
Those remarks just the latest from the sports world, where athletes, coaches, and owners are firing back against President Trump's calls for players to be fired.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field?
I certainly disagree with, what he said and thought it was just divisive.
On Sunday, a strong showing of unity in the NFL spread from coast to coast and even overseas, where the Baltimore Ravens and Jacksonville Jaguars played in London. Locked arms, kneeled players, even a near-empty field during the national anthem as the Titans and Seahawks stayed in their locker rooms.
It is kind of a surreal scene.
People say it's unpatriotic, but it's unpatriotic of the president not respecting our rights.
The president praised NASCAR, a league with considerably fewer minorities than the NBA and NFL, saying the league won't put up with disrespecting our country or flag. Today, the White House asked about the disparity in the president's response to protesters in Charlottesville who cited heritage, not hate, versus NFL players protesting police brutality.
The debate is really for them about police brutality. They should probably protest the officers on the field that are protecting them instead of the American flag.
When asked whether President Trump regretted calling American citizens expressing their First Amendment right SOBs, the White House stood by the statement. They say it is always appropriate for the president to defend the flag. Janae Norman, ABC News, Washington.
North Korea's foreign minister is accusing President Trump of declaring war on his country by tweeting over the weekend that North Korea won't be around much longer. North Korea says it would take countermeasures, including the right to shoot down U.S. bombers flying over the Korean peninsula, even if they don't enter North Korean airspace, saying, quote, in light of the declaration of war by Trump, all options on the operating table of the supreme leadership of the DPRK, end quote. Republicans are scrambling to win support for their latest version of a bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. Hundreds of protesters interrupted a Senate Finance Committee meeting on the bill today, which had to be recessed while demonstrators were removed. The measure, sponsored by Senators Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy, is one no vote away from being dead in the water. Republican Senators John McCain and Rand Paul have publicly stated they won't support the bill. And just this evening, Republican Senator Susan Collins announced she will also oppose the bill. A new poll shows most Americans disapprove of the latest effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. The CBS News poll released earlier today says just 1 in 5 Americans approve of the Graham-Cassidy health care bill. A federal judge in New York Monday sentenced former Congressman Anthony Weiner to 21 months in prison for transferring obscene material to a minor. The case centered on Weiner's lewd sexual conduct with a girl he knew was 15 years old. Weiner pleaded guilty in May. Prosecutors were asking up to 27 months in prison. Weiner's attorneys argued the former New York mayoral candidate was not a sexual predator, but rather a sick man who has made stunning progress through counseling. In addition to prison time, Weiner will also be the subject of 3 years of supervised release. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us and have a good night.